If you grew up in divorce or chaos, overthinking isn't your personality, it's your nervous system. Your brain adapted to survive by thinking like this: if I can predict everything, I can prevent pain. Today, I'll show you why you overthink, what it's protecting you from, and how to truly rebuild healing and wisdom brick by brick. My mind won't shut off. I'm constantly replaying conversations, reading between the lines, decision paralysis, worst case stories. These are just some of the symptoms that we're going to be talking about today. Guys, my name is Thomas Emmanuel Orms O'Brien. I'm the president and CEO of Building a Home Inc. I'm a former drug addict and alcoholic, rehabilitated habitual liar, survivor of a suicide attempt in 2022. I'm currently pursuing a doctorate in psychology. I'm also a leader of a faith-based community locally in my congregation. And I understand that our verbiage is very unique to us. Not a lot of people talk about things the way that we do. And so, at the beginning of every video, we do a slight recap of where we are approaching our theories from, the sources in which we are going to be taking a lot of our information, and how and why we do and say the things that we do. So for us, because we believe that life is simple in architectural terms. Life cannot be something that is passive. It is something that is built. Ultimately, we are a theistic company that believes in the God of the universe, who expresses himself in the universal force of love, best presented by the person of Jesus. And not to say that in a religious way. In fact, we absolutely hate religion. Religion defined is this: man defining God to you versus God defining himself for you. Very important distinction. And so what we believe is that no matter who you are, no matter what you've been through in life, but especially for people who experience trauma in their childhood, that you can live not only a whole, but thriving life. Very important to understand that it's not going to be perfect, but there is wholeness available for each and every single individual. Because we are a suicide survivor, what we've done is we've reverse engineered collapse. We identified the 7 things that all human beings require to not only live a good life, but one that has purpose and fulfillment. Make no mistake, we're not in the business of the pursuit of happiness. We are in the business of wholeness, because it is through wholeness that you can experience a real joy that goes beyond the bounds of this universe. And inherently, because we're a theistic company that believe in the creation of the universe by a designer, you also, if you were to believe that, would have a design personally tailored for yourself. In biblical terms, you would be a created individual. And if that's the case, then each and every single human being on the planet is uniquely and tailor-made for a certain type of healing and restoration on this planet. Now, with that being said, we also love construction, and that is why we've designed our framework to be like the building of a house. The most important thing to understand is that it was the purpose would be to rebuild what was once lost. That was your first home. And we're not excusing the past for any current behaviors, but a curious, graceful self-examination to understand the root causes of why a person who grew up in trauma makes the decisions that they do allows for true transformation. You cannot live in denial of the facts. You must embrace truth in all of its entirety. It is exclusive, which means good, bad, and ugly. Truth isn't just the thing we like, it's the thing that is. And so, we've identified that these 7 areas are absolutely required for someone to live a whole life. And just like anything else in construction, you must start from the ground up. And so, a person must first have a solid foundation, and that is built on love and truth. Because love without truth is just tolerance, and truth without love is brutality. Neither singularly helps any one person, but synonymously, when you put both of them together, you have a whole picture, right? Love being the universal force that God expresses himself through, the very essence of his character, and truth, meaning what is the observable and verifiable truth of the universe. If it cannot be confirmed by what is measurable, then it cannot be truth. And secondly, what is true about you? We are redefining the phrase my truth and making sure that my truth does not compete what is measurable nor verifiable through science. They must coincide. And so our truth, or my truth, is what's true about me. What really has happened in my life, the feelings that I truly feel, the thoughts that I truly think, who I truly am, all of those things, right? So love and truth, if you have those two, that can propel you into a future so amazing and powerful that you can literally change the world. After that, you have the basement, which is identity and integrity. And like I said, if you believe yourself to be a person that was created, then you would have an identity from your creator. And so the pursuit of knowing who you are and why you're here is perhaps the 2 most important questions that any one human being could answer on this side of life. And we pair identity and integrity because once you're aware of who you are, to be a person that is integral or integritous would be an individual that is fully themselves 100% of the time. That would be the perfect person of integrity. Now, obviously, if you're on the journey of discovery, or you've discovered and know who you are, but are in the process of becoming that person on a daily basis, you're not going to be perfect. So what would make you someone of integrity is progress. You give your utmost to be 100% yourself every single day. And again, like I said, not the version that you made up, but who you truly were created to be. If you were able to figure that out, a lot of life's questions about purpose would immediately be answered. And that brings us into the first floor, which is health, both physical health and financial health. Because if you have love, truth, identity, and integrity, number one, you would take care of yourself. You would want your body to be a reflection of what you carry inwardly. So you would pursue your health to the utmost. And after that, you would have your financial wealth. Because in this day and age, in the way society and the world is working, right, current reality, money is value. And money is what propels you into being able to fund, number one, your life personally and your purpose. So the body to carry out who you are and why you're here, and the finances to carry out who you are and why you're here. Which brings us to the second floor, vocations. The root word of the word vocation in Latin is vocare, which means to call. Now, this expresses itself in a variety of different ways. We have a video that explains and breaks that down fully and completely. But long story short, it is revealed in these four things. Number one, you bring who you are into your vocation or your purpose. It is tied to the worst thing or things that have ever happened to you. Number three, it is tied to your childhood dreams. And lastly, in service to others. Because vocation is never self-serving. It is identity expressed in love. Then after that, you have the attic, which is simply hobbies or joy. The way we define it is the things that you love to do with the people that you love doing it with. Because make no mistake, the science is clear. The opposite of play is not work, it's depression. So joy is a requirement to live a whole and fulfilled life. It's not to say that you're not an ambitious person that doesn't work as hard as they possibly can to build a whole life, but joy acts as fuel to propel you forward into that purpose. Then on the side of the house, we have the chimney, which is release, the thing that allows the smoke to leave your house. And chimney release defined as this: letting go of the people and things that do not serve your created purpose. Plain and simple. Lastly, we have the skylight, which is wisdom or divine perspective. It illuminates every single room in the house, why everything happens in the way that it does, and it answers the question as to who God is in your life, specifically and tailor-made as an individual. That is the entire purpose of relationship and not religion. So all of those things combined, expressed in a various different ways, I can't think of anything else missing that would provide you with the best possible life that you could live. And today's video draws from two places: basement, which is identity, and skylight, wisdom. And we're going to talk about why trauma shapes your brain and your and your nervous system to make the decisions in which you have. And the good news is, when you define trauma properly, there is hope for the future. So overthinking happens when the skylight gets hijacked by fear. And like I said, we properly define trauma also at the beginning of all of our videos, so you have proper understanding that clarity brings awareness, and awareness brings the ability to choose. When you truly have the ability to choose from an informed position as opposed to a position of ignorance, you can start making the choices to change your life. For the better, of course. And so trauma defined as this: trauma is not the event in itself that happened, whatever it was, whether it be a divorce or living with an abusive parent or a rape or a sexual molestation or a form of physical, mental, or emotional abuse in your childhood, specifically in utero to the age 12, which is a very important stage of neuroscientific development. It is the wound that you sustained as a result. Because when you can get to the root, to the source, you can then allow the universal force of love, God, to show you proper perspective. And when you allow him to do that for you, that is when true healing can occur. And that's why there is hope, because the nature of what a wound is. If it is defined properly as a wound, then that means it can be healed at any time. It's just a matter of observing and putting in the work. And so, with that being said, we're going to go into the breakdown of why overthinking happens, the type of scenarios of hypervigilance, they call it in psychology and neuroscience, and the tools that are available to each and every single one of us from a psychological and faith perspective to heal that and to get back on track, as it were. So, why adult children of divorce or chaos, aka traumatized individuals, often overthink? And these are usually the listed root causes for why they happen, substantiated by study of the mind and study of the soul for almost 150 years now, as it were. And so, number one is your home trained you to scan for danger. You became a room reader to stay safe. I myself experienced that a lot. Having to deal with my abusive biological father, may he rest in peace. Obviously, I'm at that point in my life now where I've put in enough work to understand that he did the best with what he had. And what he had was a pile of shit, because his father, my grandfather, was way more abusive to him than he was to me. Regardless, albeit an improvement, not a very great one. And he was very unpredictable. I did not have any predictable or safe environment with him growing up. One day he was great, another day he was horrible. And when you're in the developmental stages in childhood, you require safety and predictability. So when you're stripped of that, it informs your later on adult decisions, which brings me to number two. The rules changed overnight. Divorce, chaos, abuse teaches that stability can disappear, and your brain compensates by forecasting everything. You believe that the shoe is going to drop, especially when things are going well. Number three, you were forced into adult problems too early. You carried weight you weren't built for. Now, your brain won't stop solving, even though there is not always a mystery to solve. It just keeps going and going and going. Number four, being wrong had consequences. What do I mean by that? It's a pretty vague statement, but wrong read of the room meant explosion, shame, and abandonment. So you overcalculate. Oftentimes with an abusive parent, because they were so unpredictable, if in that moment you caught them in a mood, consequences ensued. Number five, anxiety or fear, right, starts masquerading as wisdom. So fear feels like discernment because it's familiar, but it's not. It is the opposite of correct discernment. It is a maladaptive survival trait. And our brains were trained to produce that survival trait for us. And here's the thing, it is actually an intelligent response. Either your mind breaks due to your heart being broken, or your brain devises ways to keep your mind alive and going. So, what happens now is that overthinking feels responsible, but it's often fear wearing a suit. And the thing about survival is that when you live in survival for too long in this day and age, we have to remember that humanity, our biological design, hasn't changed much since the beginning, right? Our body perceives danger in the same way as it did 10,000 years ago when we were stalking the jungles, hunting for deer or prey, but also while being hunted by, let's say, a saber-toothed tiger. And so now, instead of perceiving that real physical threat and engaging in threat response, because society, mostly modern now, is devoid of having to stay protected, safe, and intelligent in wilderness survival protocol, we get that same survival response from maladaptive growth environments, i.e., our childhood home or our childhood environment. And again, the mature point to reach is understanding that your parents did the best they could, but that does not excuse abusive behavior. If we're going to hold accountability, we must hold accountability on all sides, parent and child. And then, of course, as an adult, we've all made decisions that we regret. We've made decisions that have harmed ourselves, that have harmed others, understanding that we must also take accountability for those things, but those decisions were not rooted in nothingness. Human beings don't just do for no reason. They do because they learned, and that is the whole point of learning. When you obtain a new set of information, you can then make the decision to change your behavior. That's why, as I said earlier, our quote at BHI is awareness brings clarity, and clarity brings options. The capacity to choose from a person informed versus a person of ignorance. But here's the thing. Overthinking costs. There's a price to pay for both health and for both unhealth habits, right? And it's real life. It shows up in relationships, suspicion, testing, withdrawal, I can't relax. Work, perfectionism turns into procrastination, turns into burnout. Money, research loops, but no action. Your finances, as I've said previously, are always a reflection of your mental state. You're not bad with money because you're bad with money. You're bad with money because of in here. Right? And lastly, faith. Calling panic wisdom. Never stepping forward. That's the whole definition of faith, is hope. It is the evidence, the essence of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. A hopeless human being is a sick human being. Only an individual that has hope for the future, hope for tonight, hope for tomorrow, allows you to move forward and be present and be the best created, amazing version of who you are. So here are some of the tools that we personally use to stop overthinking. Brick number 1, name it correctly. What that does is remove shame. Because when you face the truth and you declare the truth, you gain power back. The problem is your brain wants to avoid pain. So it wants you to suppress. It wants you to depress. But only when you speak the truth and you embrace it for what it is can you truly be free. So you can say something like this. This is hypervigilance. I'm not crazy. Plain and simple. Brick number 2, facts versus fears. Fear is running from things that haven't even happened yet. All Abrahamic texts, the Bible specifically, says that it is a vain imagination. You think of the worst possible thing, so you adjust your behavior to the worst possible thing instead of the best case scenario, right? So you have a 2-column tool. What do I know? That's the facts. What am I afraid of? That's the story. And make it plain and clear. Brick number 3, the 90-second pause. Because it is a neurological and physiological change that happened in your brain and body when you grew up in an environment like that. So just saying, oh, it doesn't matter, I can do better. No, that doesn't work. That is a dodge that people who are afraid of facing the truth just like to throw out when you are willing to do the work to get better. That's not how change works. So, the 90-second pause. Body first. Slow nasal breathing. Relax the jaw. Shoulders before responding. So you have to remember, wisdom isn't speed. Wisdom is clarity. Distancing yourself from your reactions. Be willing to make the pause. Because when you sit in the question long enough, the answer finds you. Brick number 4. There's a skylight filter that we use, one of our tools in our BHI life architectural program over in Skool. We walk people through the building a home framework, individually tailor-made for every single person, and the things that they need to address for their lives, but we call a skylight filter. It's very important questions to ask, right? Similarly to assessing facts versus fears. But number 1 is, what's true? And remember, truth is what is measurable and observable by science, right? And what is true about you? So that's number 1. Number 2, what's wise long term? Because a brain that is used to survival doesn't plan for the future. It stays right here or back there, right? But learning to start hoping and planning for the future is one of the greatest tools that any one person can have, especially coming from that type of background. And number 3, what aligns with who I'm becoming? Because like I said earlier, the chimney is releasing people and things that do not serve your divine designed purpose. And that does not mean that we just burn the ships and throw it all away immediately, right? There is a proper way of getting these things done. But to grow requires to cut. To grow requires to leave behind. To grow requires to rise above, right? But it's a matter of making the decision from a place of peace and not passion. Brick number 5. Take a small, brave action. Break the loop, right? That same loop that you've been in for years and years on end. The journey of 1,000 steps starts with 1, right? Because action ends rumination, right? Pick one small step. Send that text. Set that boundary once. Do 15 minutes of budgeting your finances. Book that appointment that you've been avoiding, right? Brick number 6. Stop demanding certainty as peace. guarantee and certainty in this life is not the abundance mindset. This is the scarcity mindset. And God, as the universal force of love through the person of Jesus, talks about the kingdom mind versus the empire mind. The empire always thinks that there's not enough room for everyone at the table, versus the kingdom mindset, understanding that everyone can eat. And when you start living life with that perspective and that lens, you're no longer out to get everyone. And those that are out to get you become insignificant characters. You're able to ignore them and do the work that you're meant to do. Because while they're busy chasing you, you can live your best life. Period. End of story. Because you won't ever get 100% certainty. You're building the skill of choosing anyway. I want to leave you with these two things. Number one, you're not weak. You were trained. Number two, skylight wisdom isn't panic. It's peace. And so, all of these things can change. You don't have to be a hypervigilant, overthinking person anymore. It takes time. Because just like when you went to go swim in the pool, the first thing you did was dip your toe in the water. Take that first step. Choose hope for once. Allow yourself to open the window and let that fresh air come in. If you want a more detailed, tailor-made, individual experience of walking through the Building a Home framework, I would invite you to join our Skool community. We have free and paid versions of what we do. I would love to hear your story. I would love to see your life changed, and I would love and be honored to witness that along your side. So if any of these things resonated with you, come on and join us in Skool. We have live Q&As the last Monday of every month, and that is available to all of our members. And if you're interested in anything more than that, obviously you have the decision to make there. But regardless, I love you guys. My name is Thomas Emmanuel Arms O'Brien. See you on the next one.